Hi everyone, welcome back to the lab. The magic show. I forgot where I was for a minute. This trick is just like a magic trick, but it's really based on science. So we've been talking about Joseph, and we have heard all the horrible things that have happened to him and for how long, and more just kept piling on him. But he stayed strong and he stayed faithful to God. So I wanted to show you a magic trick that kind of represents Joseph. So we're going to say that this candle is just like Joseph. And I'm going to put my glasses on, even though it's a magic show. Safety first. This is not a trick you can do by yourself. You have to have a grown-up with you that can do this, because lighters are not supposed to be used by kids. Okay, very, very dangerous. Okay, so I've got this candle, and we're going to say that this is Joseph. And we know that God put a light in Joseph. He was faithful to God. He knew about God. He believed in God. And Miss Jane needs some help here. Here we go. And when we have that faith and we have God's love inside of us, then we're a light to others. And that's what Joseph tried to be. But sometimes things just happen that are bad. Sometimes we make mistakes and we cause our own problems that we're in, but sometimes others do it too. In this case, Joseph's brothers were the ones that caused problems for him, right, to begin with. And so they didn't like it that he got that special coat, and so they decided to kill him, and then ended up just selling him into slavery. So some really bad things started happening to Joseph, right? That's enough to put anybody's light out. They could be that depressed. But God didn't let that happen. Did you see that? Were you paying attention? I didn't even touch the wick. I was way up here, and it relit. That's how powerful God's love is. He didn't let that happen to Joseph. Joseph kept his faith and kept his strength, and he worked really hard even as a slave and did such a good job. He was promoted, and Potiphar, the person who owned him, isn't that a terrible expression, noticed and put him in charge of more and more things. He just was very successful and helped Potiphar become successful. But then more stuff started happening that was bad. Potiphar's wife makes up this crazy story and gets Joseph in trouble for something he did not do and gets him thrown into prison. That's definitely enough to put somebody's light out. Oh my goodness, did you see it? I was way up here with it and it relit again. That is amazing. I wonder what's going on. Must have just been a coincidence. Let's wait and see. So here Joseph is, back at the bottom, right? He is in prison, but he didn't let that stop him from doing work that honored God. No matter what you do, God expects you to honor him. And that's exactly what Joseph did. He didn't let all the bad things happen. He didn't sit and whine and complain because he shouldn't have been in prison. He worked, and he did such a good job that the prison keeper noticed and put him in charge of other things. And he was in charge of the other prisoners even. Well, soon, 2 new prisoners come in. Pharaoh got mad at his cupbearer and his chief baker and throws them in prison. Well, time goes by and they have these crazy dreams, and Joseph knows that God's given him a gift with dreams, and so he asks about them. Well, he interprets their dream, but he asked for a favor in return. He asked the cupbearer to remember him when he went back to work for Pharaoh, so that Pharaoh would get him out of prison. Finally, so much time had already gone by, and he didn't even commit the crime to begin with. But Joseph doesn't have that kind of luck, does he? The cupbearer completely forgets about him. That's enough to put somebody's light out too. did it again. I hope you were watching. Well, the cupbearer finally remembers Joseph when Pharaoh has the crazy dreams about the fat cows and the skinny cows and all of that. And he had asked everybody in the land what they meant that he thought would know. Nobody did. And the cupbearer remembered, hey, there's this guy in prison I met. Remember that time when you threw me in prison? I met this guy Joseph, and he could interpret dreams. So Pharaoh gets him out. Then Joseph becomes one of the rulers in Egypt. He organizes the plan to save the Egyptian people and other people too. God turned what was bad into things that are good. And Joseph had to wait a really long time for that though. Remember, he was about 17 when he got the coat, and he's about 30 when Pharaoh gets him out of prison. That's a really long time to be either a slave or a prisoner when you had done nothing wrong, right? Well, Joseph gets a chance to shine this light even more when his brothers come back. He had the chance to show revenge, but that's not where Joseph's heart was. And God asks us to be forgiving of others too, because he gives us forgiveness when we do something wrong. So Joseph shined that light, and he let his brothers not only live, but he took care of them. He brought them in and took care of them and their families that he had never even met because they were younger when he was sold into slavery. And he helped save all of Egypt, that God used him to do that. So I hope that you will remember that God has a special purpose for you too. And even when things go wrong, it doesn't mean that God left you. It means that he loves you and that he has a purpose for you, and he has a purpose for whatever's going wrong. Sometimes that's really hard to remember though. Let's do the trick one more time. So here's what happens. When I blow out the flame, hopefully you can see the smoke billowing up. If I light this at just the right time in the path of the smoke, it will shoot the flame right back down to the candle, so I don't have to touch the wick. Watch and see. I've got to find the pillar of smoke, and sometimes that's hard to see for just a couple seconds. And then as soon as I do, if I light this, so sometimes these are a little tricky, and so I've missed it a little bit here and there. Let's do it again. So I can be a little higher too. Let's try one more higher. My house is getting very smoky. I mean, my lab. I hope that you have an awesome week. I hope that you'll remember not to show revenge when somebody does something to hurt you, but to show God's love and show forgiveness, just like Jesus forgives us. And I also hope you remember that I love you and Jesus loves you more than you can imagine. Have a great week.